Right, it appears that the planet is warming up. I don't know enough about the history of global weather systems and their interactions with fossil fuels to know how much of this is attributable to mankind. But I do know there is an absence of debate about this on legacy media, and my alarm bells go off whenever I hear anyone say that the science on any matter is 100% settled. Should we be treating our planet with more respect? Of course we should. Companies should be banned from dumping chemicals and plastics into our waterways. We should be insulating our houses. And we should all be consuming less of everything, which inevitably ends up in landfill. But please, I urge you, be aware of green issue propaganda, which will serve large corporate interests which are not beneficial to you and also facilitate state control over your life. What am I talking about? Well, when Western governments quarantined healthy people, thereby abandoning pandemic preparations that were previously set in stone, I heard rumours, these theories, that this had very little to do with a virus with a high survival rate and was, in fact, priming us to respond to behavioural change intended to digitally organise humanity and save the planet. Now, I have no time for conspiracy theories. I want to see evidence with my own eyes, ideally from primary sources before I believe something. But even a cursory glance at the World Economic Forum website and the Sustainable Global Goals of Agenda 2030 provides pretty compelling evidence that changes are afoot, which will alter the movement, settlement, and even eating habits of humanity forever without your explicit consent. Secret filming of a senior executive at CNN channel recently revealed that his confession were that orders were given from on high that, I quote, climate will be the next pandemic. And you only had to cast an eye over the media frenzy of the last few days in this country to know that heat hyperbole did change behaviours. My weekly Tuesday night netball match was cancelled. Now, you can ground my flights and switch off my gas supply, but when you cancel my netball, you unleash my inner lioness. I'm kidding, of course, but what it showed to me was that the mindset manipulation of the last 2 years has worked beautifully. What behavioural psychologist Matthias Desmat calls mass formation psychosis has apparently been wonderfully effective. Now, the government didn't even have to threaten you with a fine to stay at home. People did it willingly. I went on social media showing images of local parks with plenty of shade that would have been busy had we not been receiving messages telling us all to be afraid, be terrified. Not advice to be mindful and know our own limits, but be scared, be weak. Don't believe in your own innate ability to know what is safe. Those days are gone. I read on Twitter about a family, renewed family feuds because gatherings were cancelled. Again, because the government says we shouldn't go out. I saw messages on my daughter's phone from other 13-year-olds saying that they wouldn't meet up in the park because it was too hot. So healthy 13-year-olds stayed indoors playing on a screen all day, a double win for the tech companies. I visited a water park that was closing at 1 o'clock due to the heat. So a safe form of outdoor exercise prohibited. It is no wonder that teenagers die in rivers on hot days when we have such appalling provision of swimming lessons, pools, and well-managed outdoor swimming opportunities. I had a debate with one well-loved weatherman on here last week, and calling out the fear-mongering was considered so controversial that our conversation made the papers, with me cast as some sort of shock jock for saying that we are exaggerating the threat of the heat. The weatherman said there would be hundreds and thousands of deaths. I said that seemed unlikely, and I was right. I'm not suggesting that meteorologists are part of a plan to register us all to a biometric ID and social credit score system which will tell you when you can and can't leave the house for the sake of the planet. But when your specialist subject is on the front rather than the back page of every paper, it's easy to be swept along in that drama. It's a bit like the chief medical officers who went from being pretty boring doctors to hosting their own live press conferences every night, and now Knights of the Realm. Such attention can cloud judgment and impartiality. So as we look towards August and more of this manipulation, please enjoy the weather. Don't throw a cigarette out of a car window when the grass is dry. Check your smoke detectors are working because fire brigades are already understaffed. And use your common sense as well as sunscreen. Sadiq Khan was quick to jump onto the stage this week to bask in his own virtues signalling glory. And he said, we're going to experience these temperatures every couple of years. Fine. So make sure that our trains, our buses, our schools and our businesses are all prepared to cope, and we will stay alert to the brainwashing.